What if the world around you was only half the truth? In the Islamic worldview, there is a realm just as real as the one we touch and see, yet it remains beyond the reach of our senses. It is called Al-Ghaib, the unseen. This is not the realm of fantasy or superstition, but a vast and intricate reality spoken of repeatedly in the Quran and the sayings of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. The very first qualities Allah praises in the believers of Surah Al-Baqarah are that they believe in the unseen. To accept the existence of what cannot be measured or observed is not blind faith in Islam, but trust in divine truth. It is to know that the human eye is limited, but the Creator is not. The unseen is not a single place, nor a single concept. It includes angels who move through the heavens, Jinn who live and die like us but remain hidden, and the barzakh, the space between this life and the next. It includes paradise and hell, the throne of Allah, the preserved tablet on which all is written, and the pen that first recorded it. It includes moments that have not yet happened, and secrets that no soul will ever uncover, for they belong to Allah alone. When the Prophet was asked about the soul, Revelation responded simply, "Say, the soul is from the command of my Lord, and you have not been given of knowledge except a little." This realm is not distant, it touches us constantly. Every breath we take is recorded by unseen scribes. Every prayer is lifted by wings we cannot see. Every sin and whisper, every intention we hold close, finds its way into records beyond this world. The unseen is the stage upon which our visible lives cast shadows. Even death, which seems to us a final ending, is merely a doorway into its heart. When a person dies, they do not vanish. They are met, they are carried, they are questioned, all by forces unseen. Our existence is not self-contained. We live in parallel with this greater truth. Sometimes, we are allowed glimpses, a vivid dream that lingers, a moment of clarity before disaster, a whisper of presence in solitude. But most of the time we are veiled, and there is wisdom in that. If we saw angels each time we prayed, or jinn each time we sinned, there would be no test. Faith would become a reaction, not a choice. The veil is what allows belief to matter. The Prophet described the line between seen and unseen with care. He told his companions that if they could see what he saw, they would weep more and laugh less. He warned them not to enter certain ruins at night, not because of superstition, but because some places are heavy with the presence of those who walk hidden. And yet, he never taught fear of the unseen. He taught balance. He reminded his followers that Allah is the Lord of both worlds, that no jinn, no angel, no whisper or force in the unseen can harm or help except by his will. To live with belief in Al-Ghaib is to live with awareness, not anxiety, not obsession, but presence. To know that behind the events of this world, behind the chaos and confusion, there is another layer being written. It is to trust that the unseen is not chaos but order, that what you do in silence is being recorded, and that mercy surrounds you even when you feel alone. To believe in the unseen is not to deny reality. It is to accept that reality is deeper than what eyes can prove. It is to walk with a quiet certainty that you are seen, guided, protected, and tested by a world that does not need your permission to be true. Before the first human took breath, there were beings fashioned from light. They moved without pride, without rebellion, without hesitation. They knew no hunger, no sleep, no doubt. They were the angels, known in Arabic as Malaika, and they have existed since the earliest chapters of creation, fulfilling the commands of their Lord with a loyalty that never wavers. They are not distant symbols or abstract concepts. In the teachings of Islam, they are living beings, constantly at work, constantly near. Though we do not see them, their presence surrounds our lives in ways more intimate than we often realize. The Quran speaks of them often. When Allah declared to the angels his intention to place a vicegerent on earth, it was they who asked, not out of defiance but concern, whether this new creation would shed blood and cause mischief. Their words revealed not resistance, but insight born of obedience. And Allah responded not with a denial, but with a reminder. I know what you do not know. From the very beginning, angels have been part of our story. They bore witness to the creation of Adam, prostrating in reverence not to the man himself, but to the command of Allah. Among them, there are those whose names have been made known to us, and each carries a distinct role, a purpose deeply woven into the fabric of existence. Jibreel, the angel of revelation, delivered the words of Allah to the prophets. He stood with Muhammad in the cave, bringing the first thunderous command to read, and continued to visit him with the verses that would become the Quran. His presence was immense. The prophet described seeing him in his true form, filling the horizon with wings that stretched from one edge of the sky to the other. No vision before or after compared. Mikael, another great angel, is responsible for the rain and provision. It is through him that life reaches the earth in drops and measure. Israfil holds the trumpet and waits, poised for the command to blow. When he does, the world as we know it will shatter. The first sound will bring death to all living things, and the second will call the dead to rise. Malik is the keeper of hell, a figure of sternness and silence, while Ridwan watches over paradise with gentleness and welcome. These names are not part of myth but are affirmed in divine scripture, woven into the unseen world with meaning. But angels are not confined to these towering roles. There are those who remain with every human from the moment they are formed. At a certain point in the womb, an angel is sent to blow the soul into the fetus. That same angel writes 4 matters: their livelihood, their lifespan, their actions, and whether they will be among the fortunate or the wretched. This decree is not known to us, but it unfolds throughout a life in ways we can only witness in hindsight. Every day, other angels continue to accompany us. They are not silent observers, but active recorders. One sits on the right and records good deeds. One sits on the left and records what is foul. They do not forget, and they do not sleep. Their records will one day be handed back to us, unedited. What we whispered, what we intended, what we justified to ourselves, they write it all. Even the smallest act, a glance, a sigh, a private choice, is preserved. And yet, they are not only recorders, they are protectors too. There are angels who guard us without our knowledge. Every time you narrowly avoid harm, there may be one nearby carrying out a quiet command from the most merciful. There are also the angels who descend upon gatherings of remembrance. When people come together to remember God, to recite His book, to share in the light of knowledge, angels encircle them, layer upon layer, filling the space from the earth to the sky. They bring with them peace, and they carry the names of those gathered up to the heavens. And in the most intimate of moments, when the soul leaves the body, it is the angels who come again. For the righteous their faces shine, bringing fragrances from paradise and wrapping the soul in silken cloth. For others, their presence brings terror. Their grip is firm, their arrival stern. They do not delay, and they do not negotiate. In the grave, the soul is not left alone. 2 angels, Munkar and Nakir, visit to ask 3 questions. Who is your Lord? What is your religion? Who is your prophet? The ability to answer truthfully comes not from memory, but from belief. A life lived in truth echoes in the grave, while a life of neglect falters in fear. These questions are not merely a test of words, but of reality. The nature of angels reflects purity. They do not eat, do not drink, and do not tire. Their numbers are beyond our comprehension. During the Prophet's miraculous night journey, he witnessed the Bait al-Ma'mur, a celestial house of worship where 70,000 angels pray each day, never returning, never repeating. That means every day, a fresh 70,000 new angels arrive, and that number continues. Their ranks are endless. They descend on nights of power, surround the Kaaba, and line the skies awaiting their Lord's command. The Prophet taught his followers to honor their presence. He warned not to speak falsely, not to curse, and not to insult in their presence, for the angels are offended by what offends the people of faith. He also spoke of how the angels pray for those who make dua for others in secret, who sleep in a state of purity, who visit the sick, and who walk to the mosque. The angels love those who love righteousness, and they are absent from places of filth, deceit, and falsehood. To believe in angels is not to imagine wings and halos. It is to believe that justice is recorded, that mercy is dispatched, and that truth is guarded even when no one sees. It is to trust that no prayer goes unheard, that no tear is ignored, and that no injustice is lost. Their existence affirms the moral order behind the chaos. Every act we commit writes its trace in the unseen, not with ink and paper, but with light and certainty. In our solitude, we are not alone. In our joy, in our grief, in our fear, there are those created long before us who move in obedience to a Lord who never forgets. They neither distract nor speak over us, but they witness, they listen, and in the end, they will speak on our behalf or stand against us. The angels are not symbols of hope or fear. They are real. They are near, and they remind us that every step we take, every word we choose, echoes far beyond this world. Long before human footsteps marked the soil, there were beings who lived and moved across the unseen corners of the world. The Jinn were created from smokeless fire, a substance unknown to us, blazing and alive yet without the smoke and ash that earthly flames leave behind. Unlike the angels, who know only obedience, the Jinn were gifted with free will. They love, they rebel, they believe, they reject. They live lives parallel to ours, bound by the same Creator but following paths that often stray into places we fear to tread. The Quran speaks directly about them. An entire chapter bears their name. They are not myth, not superstition, but a reality acknowledged by revelation. Their presence is veiled, not because they are unreal, but because the veil itself is part of the test. They see us from places we cannot see them. They inhabit the deserts, the ruins, the shadows between light. They marry and have children. They eat and drink. They die and face judgment. Among them are the righteous who pray and fast and believe in God's signs. And among them are those who lie, whisper, and deceive. When the Prophet Muhammad began receiving revelation, a group of jinn heard him reciting the Quran. They returned to their kind and said, "We have heard a wondrous recitation. It guides to what is right, and we have believed in it." This moment, described in the Quran itself, shows that faith is not the sole property of humankind. The unseen world listens too. Some jinn accepted Islam, and they live quietly, out of sight, obeying their Lord as we strive to obey ours. But others, led by pride and envy, chose a darker path. The most infamous among them is Iblis, who was not an angel as some assume, but one of the jinn. He had worshipped among the angels due to his righteousness and knowledge. When Allah created Adam and commanded the angels to bow, Iblis stood apart. His refusal was not one of misunderstanding, but of arrogance. He believed himself superior, created from fire while Adam was formed from clay. That one act of defiance marked his fall. When he was cast out, he did not plead for forgiveness. Instead, he asked for respite, time, and he swore to use that time to lead as many of Adam's descendants astray as he could. His whispers have echoed through generations, not with force, not with possession in every moment, but with suggestion. The jinn have a way of drawing near in silence, placing a thought in the mind that feels like your own. The Quran calls it waswasa, the whisper that comes from behind and before, from the left and the right, from within the chest. It is not always a voice you hear. Sometimes it is a pull, an urge, a flicker of doubt, and in moments of weakness, the jinn exploit those cracks in the soul. But not all whispers are their doing. The human soul has its own desires, its own forgetfulness. Islam teaches discernment, not paranoia. Yet the reality remains. Jinn are part of the test. Some roam with malice. They enter abandoned places, haunt places of impurity, watch those who live heedlessly. They feed on what is left uncovered, what is left unguarded. The Prophet taught his companions to cover food, to close doors at night, to say the name of Allah before entering their homes or removing their clothing, not as ritual, but as protection. These words shield not from superstition but from real harm. Among the Jinn are those stronger and more rebellious. The Quran mentions the Ifrit, a powerful class of Jinn, one of whom offered to bring the throne of the Queen of Sheba to Solomon in the blink of an eye. Another class is known as the Marid, known for their pride and strength. Some Jinn serve the cause of black magic, cooperating with humans who seek control and power through forbidden means. Seer or sorcery is real in Islamic tradition, but it always comes at a price. No pact with a Jinn comes without a cost. Often, it requires acts of disbelief, impurity, or sacrifice that sever a person's connection with Allah. There are those who claim to summon Jinn, to command them, to use them for healing or information. Islam warns clearly against such practices. While Jinn have abilities beyond ours, such as moving swiftly, changing form, or accessing places unseen, they do not possess ultimate knowledge. They do not know the future. They do not override divine decree, and trusting in them, calling on them, or fearing them more than fearing Allah is a form of ruin. The Prophet said that whoever goes to a soothsayer or a fortune teller and believes in what they say has disbelieved in what was revealed to Muhammad. The unseen is not to be manipulated. It is to be approached with caution, reverence, and protection. Possession is one of the more frightening aspects often associated with Jinn. There are cases, affirmed in hadith and witnessed in communities, where a Jinn may enter a human being, causing harm or instability. Sometimes it is revenge, sometimes it is oppression, sometimes it is because a person exposed themselves to spiritual danger through disobedience or neglect. But Islam does not leave us defenseless. The Quran is a cure. Ayat al-Kursi, the last verses of Surah al-Baqarah, the Mu'awwidatayn, these are not empty recitations, they are shields. The remembrance of Allah drives away the unseen that intends harm. The sound of His words burns those who seek to invade. Ruqyah, the practice of spiritual healing, relies on the pure recitation of revelation, and not the strange rituals or symbols some people turn to in desperation. It is important to remember that most Jinn, like most people, want to live undisturbed. They have their own societies, hierarchies, laws, and beliefs. Their world overlaps with ours in space, but not in full interaction. When we encroach upon their domains, knowingly or not, problems can arise. And when they encroach upon ours, the best response is not fear, but knowledge and submission to the one who created both worlds. No Jinn, no matter how strong, can overpower a believer who places their trust in Allah sincerely. At times, a person may sense a presence, a heaviness, a sudden cold, or a dream that feels more than imagination. Islam does not encourage chasing these signs, nor does it ignore them. Balance is always key. A person grounded in prayer, dhikr, and obedience is not left alone in the unseen. The angels draw near. The Jinn, unless welcomed or invited, keep their distance. But when people invite them through forbidden practices, games, or curiosity, the veil begins to fray. It is no coincidence that the Prophet forbade certain actions that seem innocent on the surface but open doors beneath. The Jinn are not all evil, but they are not human. Their perspective is different, their lives shaped by an element we cannot fully understand. When they believe, they can become allies in truth, praying and worshiping as we do. When they disbelieve, they become part of the forces that whisper and pull souls away from the light. This is why the Prophet used to seek refuge every morning and evening, not just for himself, but for his family, his companions, and his community. He knew what walked unseen. In the end, belief in the Jinn is not meant to frighten or overwhelm. It is a reminder that this life is part of a larger story, that we are not alone in our tests, that every moment, seen and unseen, matters. The Jinn exist by the will of the Creator, and they will be judged just as we will be judged. They live in shadow, but they do not escape the light of truth. And so we walk forward, not afraid but aware, guarding our hearts, guarding our homes, and guarding our souls with the remembrance of the one who knows what is hidden and what is revealed. The soul is a mystery that escapes the grasp of science, and slips through the net of philosophy. It is the breath placed within us by the command of the Almighty, a breath that animates clay and gives meaning to flesh. When Allah fashioned Adam and breathed into him of his spirit, that moment marked the beginning of something deeper than mere life. The soul carries identity, purpose, consciousness, and the imprint of its origin, yet it is not ours to fully comprehend. When the Prophet Muhammad was asked about the soul, the answer revealed its sacred distance. It is from the command of your Lord, and you have been given only a little knowledge. Though the nature of the soul lies beyond our reach, its journey is described with vivid clarity in Islamic tradition. From the moment it is placed within the body in the womb, the soul is watched, recorded, and guided. It does not belong to this world, and when the body returns to the earth, the soul continues its path. Death is not the end but a crossing. The soul departs not into oblivion but into the next station of existence, a realm known as the Barzakh. Barzakh is the barrier between this world and the hereafter. It is not visible, yet every soul must pass into it. It begins at the moment of death. The Prophet described how the angel of death comes, accompanied by either angels of mercy or angels of punishment, depending on the state of the soul. For the believing soul, the angels appear with bright faces and comforting voices, bringing shrouds from paradise and sweet fragrance. They take the soul gently like a drop falling from a jug and carry it upward. On the way, the gates of heaven open for it, and it is welcomed by angels who call it by the best names it was known by in the world. It is taken as high as Allah allows, and then returned to the grave to await the next phase. For the disbelieving or rebellious soul, the experience is different. The angels who arrive are stern and dark-faced, bringing coarse cloth and a stench that repels. They do not draw the soul gently but wrench it from the body, dragging it upwards. The gates of heaven do not open, and the soul is cast back down. The grave does not become a place of rest, but of distress. The difference between the two experiences lies not in their deeds alone, but in the orientation of their hearts, their intentions, and their relationship with the Creator. Once the soul is returned to the grave, the questioning begins. Two angels, Munkar and Nakir, arrive to ask three questions. Who is your Lord? What is your religion? Who is your prophet? These are not questions of memorization, but reflections of the life lived. The answers will not come from memory, but from conviction. If the heart knew the truth, the tongue will follow. If the heart was distracted, defiant, or empty, the mouth will fumble, and the soul will tremble. The grave then either expands or tightens. For the righteous, it becomes spacious and filled with light, like a garden from the gardens of paradise. A window opens, and they can see where they are heading. They rest, not in unconscious sleep, but in peace. For others, the grave becomes constricted, pressing in, dark and heavy. A window opens to hell, and they see what waits for them. The Barzakh is not the final judgment, but it is a reflection of what is to come. It is the intermission before the great resurrection, yet it contains enough joy or sorrow to make it a reality of its own. The souls remain in this realm until the appointed time, the day of judgment. During this period, the living may forget, but the dead do not. Time flows differently in the Barzakh. Years may pass, but for the soul it may feel like a blink. Yet within that blink there is awareness. The righteous rejoice when prayers are made for them. They may even visit the dreams of the living. Their spirits may meet other souls, share news, or linger in places they loved. Some traditions speak of the souls of the martyrs flying freely, nourished in the gardens of paradise. Others speak of the souls of the wicked being chained or trapped in darkness. This in-between world is not bound by material laws. It is not found on maps or through telescopes, but its reality is affirmed again and again. The prophet would stand by the graves and greet its inhabitants, as one greets the living. He taught his followers to pray for those who had passed, to visit graves not in fear but in reflection. Death is the great equalizer, the silent teacher that reminds us of the soul's ultimate journey. What happens in the Barzakh depends not only on belief but on character. It is said that the grave does not ask if you were wealthy or powerful, but if you were truthful, if you prayed, if you honored the trust placed upon you. It is a place where titles mean nothing, and where excuses fall silent. A tyrant and a beggar lie the same, but what unfolds next depends on the inner life that once moved behind their eyes. There are moments in life when the soul feels its weight, a sudden stillness, a brush with death, a quiet during prayer when the world falls away. These are not coincidences. The soul remembers where it came from and yearns for its return. But for many, that return is delayed by forgetfulness. People chase the world, ignoring the very essence that animates them. Islam calls us back to that awareness. It reminds us that we are more than flesh, more than what others see, that within us is something ancient, luminous, and accountable. The Barzakh is not meant to frighten, but to awaken. It teaches that death is not random, that every soul is cared for, carried, and placed exactly where it belongs. The journey of the soul is not one of isolation. From birth to death to resurrection, it is surrounded by angels, tested by whispers, and guided by revelation. It walks a path watched by the one who formed it and who will call it back. When we stand over a grave, we are not bidding farewell. We are witnessing a transition. The body rests in dust, but the soul continues. Our prayers reach them. Our sins can burden them. Our good deeds can lift them. The bond is not broken by death, only hidden from view. To understand the soul and the Barzakh is to understand that life is only the beginning. What lies beyond is not fiction or mystery, but a continuation of the truth that shaped us from the start. The soul belongs to Allah, and to Him is its return. What we prepare today determines how we are received tomorrow, and in that understanding, there is both hope and responsibility. There are places prepared beyond the veil of death, places not built by human hands, not shaped by time or gravity, but by the will of the Creator who knows the depths of every soul. These places are not allegories or poetic symbols. They are real, vivid, and waiting. The Quran and the sayings of the Prophet describe them in detail, not to merely inform, but to stir something in the heart, to awaken longing or caution, depending on the path one chooses. Heaven, called Jannah, is a promise of eternal peace and reward. Hell, known as Jahannam, is a warning of torment and regret. Together, they complete the journey that begins with birth and ends with the final judgment. Jannah is a place unlike any joy experienced on earth. It is not just a garden of beauty, but a realm of complete contentment. The Quran describes it with flowing rivers, towering trees, silk garments, and golden cups. But these are only the beginning. The Prophet said that within it are things no eye has seen, no ear has heard, and no heart has imagined. The pleasures of Jannah are not dulled by repetition or burdened by guilt. There is no fatigue, no sadness, no envy, no pain. Those who enter it are made whole. Their bodies are perfected. Their hearts are clean. They live without fear that the joy will end, because it never does. The people of paradise are greeted by angels who say, "Peace be upon you for the patience you practiced." They are not strangers to hardship. Many of them bore great tests in the world. Illness, poverty, grief, loneliness. But they bore it with faith, and now they are home. They recline on thrones, walk among gardens, eat from fruits that taste new each time, and hear the sounds of joy echoing across eternity. The Prophet described them as shining with light, their laughter never hollow, their gatherings never tiring. They are reunited with those they love, and if one family member is higher in rank, Allah may raise the others to join them. At the heart of paradise is not just luxury, but nearness to the one who made it. The greatest reward in Jannah is not a mansion or a tree or a stream. It is the pleasure of Allah. When He declares His contentment, there is no sorrow left. And when He lifts the veil and allows the people of paradise to see Him, even if only for a moment, that sight surpasses all the other joys. The soul was created to know its Lord, and in Jannah, that knowing becomes real. But not all souls travel the same path. Jahannam also exists. It is not a myth or a metaphor. It is a reality formed by justice. Its gates are guarded by stern angels. Its fire burns not just skin, but what lies beneath. The Quran speaks of its heat, its smoke, its endless thirst, and its screams. It has layers and depths, each prepared for those who rejected truth, oppressed others, mocked the signs, or chose arrogance over submission. The people of hell are not there because Allah seeks to punish. He is the most merciful, the most forgiving. But those who turn away from mercy, who refuse forgiveness, who harm others and feel no regret, walk toward their own destruction. Jahannam is not the result of a single mistake. It is the end of a pattern, a life lived in denial. And even then, some will enter it only temporarily. There are sinners among the believers whose sins outweigh their good. They may be purified through fire before entering paradise, as an act of divine justice and mercy combined. The prophet wept when he spoke of hell. He warned his companions often. He said that if we knew what he knew, we would weep more and laugh less. He saw the punishments prepared for those who lie, who steal, who betray trust, who devour the rights of orphans, who spread corruption, and yet he never left his people without hope. He taught that a single tear shed out of fear of Allah could protect a person from the flames, that even the one who lived a life of sin, if they turned back to Allah sincerely, would find him ready to forgive. The contrast between Jannah and Jahannam is meant to awaken the soul. We are not left to wander without direction. The Quran tells us often to race toward forgiveness, to strive for paradise, to fear the fire. It is not fear meant to paralyze, but to guide. A healthy fear that protects, just as a child avoids the stove not because they hate their parents, but because they trust the warning. Between these two destinations lies our choice. Every action, every intention, tilts the scale. The scales will be real on the day of judgment. Deeds will be weighed. Books will be opened. Hands and feet will testify. And there will be people who are surprised to find kindnesses they forgot being counted for them, or sins they dismissed being laid bare. Allah does not wrong anyone. He repays each soul exactly what it earned, and then multiplies the good out of mercy. There will be people who walk straight into paradise without reckoning. 70,000 of them, as the Prophet said. They trust in Allah completely, rely on Him without superstition or complaint. There will be others who crawl, who are pulled out of hell by the prayers of loved ones or the mercy of Allah alone. And there will be those who never leave, whose lives were filled with cruelty, denial, and rebellion until the end. Even hell, in its terror, is a form of truth. It is the place where injustice finds its answer, where oppressors are no longer powerful, where the scales of wrong are finally balanced. Yet the door of repentance is never closed while breath remains. The Prophet said that Allah stretches His hand out by night to forgive the sinner of the day, and stretches it out by day to forgive the sinner of the night. Until the sun rises from the west, the door stays open. Once the soul departs the body, the record is sealed. What we bring into the grave, we carry into the hereafter. To live with the knowledge of Jannah and Jahannam is to live with purpose. It is to know that your efforts are seen, that your pain is not wasted, that your mistakes can be erased, that you are moving toward a place, one way or another. This life is not the end, and it is not enough to claim belief while walking without direction. Faith must be followed by striving, and striving must be fueled by hope. Jannah waits with gates open wide for those who seek it. Jahannam waits not with eagerness but with truth. Both are real, both are eternal, and both remind us that this life is not all there is. Behind every choice stands a consequence. Behind every breath stands the promise of what comes next. The wise are those who plant for the next life while walking through this one, who speak with care, act with intention, and never forget that the soul was made for something more. There are moments in life that pull us beyond the surface, a dream that lingers long after waking, a sudden feeling of knowing something before it happens, a whisper of comfort when we are alone. Islam teaches that the world of the unseen is not only populated with angels and jinn, or limited to the grave and the hereafter. Sometimes it reaches us in gentle signs and subtle touches. These moments are not accidents. They are part of how Allah communicates with His creation, not through speech but through signs that speak to the soul more than the ear. One of the clearest windows into the unseen is the dream. The Prophet Muhammad said that dreams are a portion of prophecy. There are dreams that carry truth, dreams that confuse, and dreams that come from the whispers of Shaitan. Not every dream is meaningful, and not every image holds a secret, but sometimes Allah grants a believer a vision that carries guidance, reassurance, or warning. Prophets received revelation in dreams. Ibrahim saw himself sacrificing his son. Yusuf was shown symbols of his future long before it came to pass. The companions of the prophet would share their dreams, and he would listen and interpret when appropriate. This tradition shows that the dream is not just a personal experience, but can serve as a connection to something beyond. Yet Islam teaches caution. The unseen is real, but not everything we do not understand belongs to that world. Some dreams reflect what we fear or desire. Others are the remnants of our thoughts from the day. But there are those that pierce through. They leave behind a feeling that cannot be shaken, a clarity, a weight. These are not to be worshipped or followed blindly, but they can be held with respect and measured against the guidance of revelation. If a dream draws one closer to prayer, to patience, to truth, it may be a gift. If it stirs fear or contradicts what Allah has made clear, it is not to be trusted. The balance lies in humility. Beyond dreams, there are other signs. Sometimes a person senses something before it happens, or a prayer is answered in a way that feels immediate and personal. Sometimes a verse comes to mind at the perfect moment, or a decision that once seemed impossible becomes clear through a series of events that feel too precise to be chance. These signs are not predictions or guarantees. They are reminders. Allah tells us in the Quran that He shows signs in the horizons and in ourselves until it becomes clear that this message is the truth. These signs do not replace revelation. They reflect it. They are gentle nudges that bring the heart back to remembrance. Some people experience moments of intense clarity in times of hardship or solitude. During illness or grief, the veil between the physical and the spiritual can feel thinner. The soul, pressed by pain or loss, turns more fully to its source. In those moments, a believer may feel connected to something larger, something eternal. This is not imagination. It is the fitra, the natural state of the soul, responding to the call of its creator. The more a person purifies their heart, the more receptive they become to these quiet forms of guidance. A clean heart does not always see visions, but it begins to recognize the hand of Allah in the ordinary. There are also moments of protection that come without explanation, a delay that keeps someone from harm, a change in direction that leads to something better, a sense of unease that warns against a dangerous choice. These too are signs. The Prophet taught that when a believer relies on Allah with true trust, they are given a kind of inner compass. This is not superstition. It is tawakkul, a trust that allows Allah to guide even the smallest decisions. That guidance may come through people, through changes in circumstance, or through a subtle shift in the heart. Islam also acknowledges the possibility of karamat, or miraculous occurrences granted to the righteous. These are not sought or boasted about. They are signs of Allah's favor, not proof of personal greatness. Some companions of the Prophet experienced such moments, where their dua was answered in ways that defied normal explanation, or they were granted strength or insight in times of need. But the true miracle is not in the breaking of physical laws. It is in the constancy of a heart that remains faithful, the clarity of a soul that trusts its Lord. In contrast, Islam warns against those who seek power through false means. Magic, fortune-telling, and invoking spirits are not paths to truth. They are doors that lead away from light and into danger. The Prophet forbade these practices not because he denied the unseen, but because he understood its weight. Trying to manipulate what lies beyond is an act of arrogance. It invites harm and invites lies. True connection with the unseen comes not through control, but through submission. Even the most private moments of reflection can carry this connection. A person sits alone before dawn, speaking to their Lord in whispers. No vision appears, no voice responds. But the heart softens, and the tears come, and something within feels answered. This too is a sign. Not every connection is loud. Sometimes the strongest ones are silent. In the quiet between words, the soul feels seen. That is the language of the unseen. These connections are not reserved for scholars or saints. They are available to anyone who turns their heart sincerely to Allah, a child who prays with love, a sinner who repents with shame, a believer who walks through the world looking for the signs of mercy. The unseen does not favor status, it favors sincerity. In a world that pulls our eyes to the material, to the immediate and the measurable, Islam reminds us that reality is not confined to what we can touch. The unseen is not somewhere else. It is all around. It is above, beneath, and within. Through dreams, through moments, through whispers of truth, it reaches for us. And when we respond with remembrance, with humility, and with hope, we begin to see not with sight, but with insight, not with certainty of form, but with trust in the one who sees all things. The unseen world carries beauty and danger. Within it are the angels who watch and guard, and the Jinn who whisper and deceive. There is mercy moving quietly across the earth, and there are forces that look for weakness, for carelessness, for invitation. Islam does not teach fear of the unseen. It teaches preparation. The Prophet Muhammad did not live in constant anxiety about jinn or magic, but he never ignored their reality. He taught his companions how to protect themselves, not through talismans or hidden rituals, but through words and actions rooted in divine truth. The protection begins not with objects, but with remembrance. Every morning and evening, the Prophet would say words that formed a shield around his day and night. These were not long incantations or hidden phrases. They were simple but powerful. Seeking refuge in Allah from what He created, reciting verses that carry divine weight, turning the heart back to the source of all safety. Surah Al-Falaq and Surah An-Nas, often called the Mu'awwidhatayn, were revealed for this purpose. They speak directly to the fears that rise when the sun sets, to the harm that comes in envy, in darkness, in whispers that creep. He would recite them 3 times in the morning and 3 times in the evening, blowing gently into his palms and wiping them over his body. This was not a superstition. It was a habit of the Prophet, taught with clarity and consistency. One of the strongest verses for protection is Ayat al-Kursi, found in Surah al-Baqarah. It speaks of Allah's throne, His knowledge, His power, His eternal watchfulness. The Prophet said that whoever recites it after every prayer is under divine protection until the next. When it is read at night before sleep, no devil can come near until morning. These promises are not poetic exaggerations. They are guarantees from the one who never fails to keep his word. When a person makes these verses part of their daily rhythm, they are not just reading. They are building a wall around the soul. The morning and evening adhkar are more than just collections of dua. They are a fortress. In them are words seeking protection from worry, fatigue, illness, and harm. In them is the acknowledgement that we are not in control, and that safety does not come from locks or cameras, but from the one who sees what no eye can. Reciting these words with presence is like lighting a flame in the dark. It does not make the darkness disappear, but it surrounds you with warmth and clarity. The Prophet also taught specific habits for vulnerable times. Before entering the bathroom, he would say a short prayer seeking protection from the male and female jinn. Before putting on clothes, he would mention the name of Allah. Before eating, before leaving the house, before sleeping, he would begin with remembrance. These small actions are like drawing lines in the sand. They tell the unseen that this soul is not alone, that this body is guarded, that this home belongs to someone who remembers. Neglect, on the other hand, leaves the door open. When a person forgets to mention Allah, especially in dark or abandoned places, they become exposed. The jinn are not all evil, but some among them seek places where humans forget, places filled with filth, with shouting, with heedlessness. This is why the Prophet discouraged entering ruins at night, and why he warned against whistling or clapping without purpose. It is not that these acts are sinful, but they disturb what cannot be seen, and invite attention that may not be welcome. Magic is another part of the unseen that carries real danger. Seer is not a trick or illusion. It can affect hearts, marriages, health, and minds. It is not done through sleight of hand, but through cooperation with devils. Those who practice it sell pieces of their soul for control. Islam condemns it completely. The one who seeks it, believes in it, or relies on it, walks a path of destruction. But again, protection lies not in fear but in faith. The Quran was revealed as a healing. Its words, recited with conviction, drive away what was sent to harm. Ruqya, the practice of spiritual healing, is simply the use of pure Quranic verses and prophetic supplications. No powders, no candles, no strange symbols, just light meeting darkness. A heart that is close to Allah becomes difficult to reach. A home filled with prayer, Quran, and kindness becomes inhospitable to those who thrive in chaos. The Prophet encouraged filling homes with the recitation of Surah Al-Baqarah. He said that devils flee from the house where it is read, not because of the sound itself, but because the words affirm the power and presence of Allah. They leave no room for falsehood. Children are especially vulnerable, not because they are weak, but because their innocence draws attention. The Prophet would make dua for his grandsons, asking Allah to protect them from every evil eye and envious soul. He encouraged parents to do the same, with sincerity, without fear. The unseen world notices the light in a child, and remembrance is the covering that keeps that light safe. Ultimately, protection from the unseen is not a single act. It is a way of living. It is awareness without obsession. It is discipline without rigidity. It is trust in the one who controls what we see and what we do not. No harm can reach a soul unless Allah allows it, and when He allows it, it is never without wisdom. But we are not asked to walk into danger blind. We are taught how to guard ourselves, our families, and our homes. Through the Quran, through prayer, through remembering the names of Allah, through the habits of a prophet who walked with angels and warned against shadows. To live with protection from the unseen is not to fear what lies beyond. It is to stand firm, knowing that whatever comes, you are not alone. You are watched, loved, and shielded by the one who holds the unseen and the seen in his perfect grasp. There is a line a believer walks every day. On one side is fear, the awareness that the unseen holds tests, consequences, and forces beyond our grasp. On the other side is faith, the calm certainty that Allah is near, that His mercy surrounds all things, and that He never burdens a soul beyond what it can bear. Islam does not call for a life of trembling and shadows, nor does it teach blind optimism that ignores danger. Instead, it teaches balance. A heart that fears the unseen must also trust the one who governs it. A soul that remembers the whispers and warnings must also hold to the light that guides through them. The Prophet Muhammad knew more about the unseen than any other human. He saw the angels. He spoke with Jibreel. He was shown paradise and hell. He knew of the Jinn, of the grave, of the day when all would rise. Yet he did not live in fear. He did not retreat from life or grow suspicious of every shadow. He laughed. He played with children. He walked in the marketplace and rested in the quiet of night. His fear of Allah did not paralyze him. It focused him. It made his choices clearer and his heart more grounded. He feared his Lord, but he also loved Him deeply and trusted Him fully. Many people, when they learn about the Jinn or the punishments of the grave or the weight of the unseen, begin to carry anxiety. They look over their shoulder. They wonder if every strange noise is a sign, if every bad dream holds a curse. This is not what Allah wants for His servants. The unseen is part of belief, not a burden. Knowing that angels record your deeds is not meant to make you nervous, but to remind you that you matter, that nothing you do is wasted. Knowing that the Jinn exist is not meant to make you frightened, but to teach you to live with intention and protection. When you say the name of Allah, you are not just following a rule. You are announcing that you walk with remembrance, that you are not careless, that your heart is awake. The Quran speaks often of fear, but it always pairs that fear with mercy. It warns of fire, but promises forgiveness to those who turn back. It describes punishment, but always leaves the door of repentance wide open. Fear in Islam is not despair. It is not the fear of someone lost in the dark. It is the fear of someone who knows where the edge is and walks carefully because they love what they are protecting. The believer does not fear the unseen in isolation. The believer fears losing the nearness of Allah. That is the true meaning of taqwa. There is wisdom in this balance. A person who fears nothing becomes arrogant and reckless. A person who fears everything becomes helpless and hopeless. Islam teaches the middle way. It says, remember death, but live fully. It says, beware of shaitan, but trust in your dua. It says the grave is real, but so is the mercy that descends into it. Even the day of judgment, with its terror and its fire, is filled with moments of relief, shade for those who loved the mosque, smiles for those who fed the hungry, a quiet for those who remembered Allah in solitude. This balance is a gift. It means you can walk through a world filled with unseen forces and still carry peace. It means that knowing what waits beyond does not ruin joy, but deepens it. Every prayer, every verse, every moment of reflection becomes more valuable, not because you are afraid of punishment, but because you understand what is at stake and who is watching. To live with fear and faith side by side is to be awake. It is to walk through the world knowing that you are not alone, not forgotten, not unguarded. It is to recognize that the unseen is not an enemy but a truth, and that the one who made it did not do so to terrify you, but to shape you. Faith does not erase fear, and fear does not cancel faith. Together, they create the heart of the believer, a heart that is humble, strong, careful, and full of hope. From the moment the soul is breathed into the body, it becomes part of something greater than what the eyes can see. The world around us, as detailed in the Quran and the teachings of the Prophet, is not limited to walls and streets and skies. Beyond it lies a reality layered with presence, meaning, and divine order. This unseen world is not an abstract philosophy or a poetic metaphor. It is as real as breath and bone. It moves through us and around us, shaping the course of lives, holding the records of deeds, and preparing the places where every soul will one day rest or rise. In Islam, belief in the unseen is not optional. It is one of the very first descriptions of those who are guided. They believe not just in what they hold in their hands, but in what has been promised. They trust in what the messenger delivered, even if their eyes have not seen it. This trust is not blind. It is anchored in revelation and lived experience. It is reinforced by the consistent truth of a world that, time and time again, proves its signs to those who reflect. Angels are not distant or rare. They are always near, recording, protecting, and carrying out the will of their Lord with dignity and grace. Every act of kindness, every quiet prayer, every tear shed in secret is witnessed and remembered. Jinn, with their free will and hidden forms, test the boundaries of our awareness. Some choose faith, others serve corruption, but none of them move outside the permission of Allah. They whisper, they deceive, they cause fear, but they do not control. And when the name of Allah is spoken with conviction, their power fades. The soul, crafted from the command of the divine, carries us through this life but is never confined to it. It enters with intention, lives with purpose, and departs with consequence. Its journey through the barzakh, the space between death and resurrection, continues with clarity. The grave is not silence. It is a waiting room with meaning. For some, it opens to light and peace. For others, it becomes tight and dark. What comes next is determined not by wealth or appearance, but by belief, sincerity, and action. Jannah and Jahannam are not ideas born from fear or fantasy. They are destinations shaped by justice. Paradise is beauty that never fades, peace that never ends, love without loss. Hell is regret magnified, truth laid bare, and justice fulfilled. Yet even within these truths, mercy never departs. The doors of forgiveness are open as long as the soul remains in the body. A single step toward repentance can carry a person far, and those who strive, even if they stumble, are never overlooked. Throughout all this, Islam does not command fear alone. It commands knowledge, remembrance, and balance. It teaches that protection lies in truth, that strength comes from trust, that the heart, when tied to its creator, can walk through any storm. The unseen is not something to chase with curiosity or deny with arrogance. It is something to live with, to acknowledge, to prepare for. In the end, belief in the unseen is belief in the full story. It is to accept that this world is not the whole of reality, that behind every act is a witness, that behind every hardship is a purpose, that life is a bridge, not a destination, and across that bridge waits what the eye cannot yet see, but the heart already knows. Every verse, every warning, every promise points toward that world. You may not see the angels who stand at your side. You may not hear the soul's journey after death. You may not know what is being written about you now, but it is all there. And Islam does not leave you lost in the dark. It gives you the map, the light, and the prayer. And with that, the unseen becomes less distant. It becomes part of you. A truth that follows every step. A promise waiting just beyond the veil.